Why would Belichick never make these changes? Or would he say, even if maybe on background, hey, I did make a lot of stuff. We did do a lot of stuff for Tom. I did make a lot of exceptions for Tom. Like, what's the disconnect, if there is one at all, on that subject?
It's definitely a disconnect. And I actually have a great anecdote in the book about Bill Belichick, Eric Mangini, and Ty Law, where Bill Belichick gives Eric Mangini that same speech that Parcells gave Belichick back in the day. But, look, I mean, I wrote a lot about this at the time, but they're coming off a fifth Super Bowl, and Tom decided to branch out. He had his TB12 book. He did the Tom versus Time documentary. For the first time ever, he really stepped out of just being an employee of the Patriots and really tried to promote something else that was really strictly about him and not the team. Now, one could argue that he was always treated differently. Bill Belichick's come out and said publicly that every decision they made for 20 years was designed to be what's best for Tom Brady. So it's clear that, and Tom Brady had a window, a direct line to the owner that he could go to, whenever he wanted to vent or get something off of his chest. And a lot of the coaches actually felt like that Kraft, not intentionally, but by trying to hear Brady out, Kraft obviously is trying to keep this band together as long as he could, that Kraft made the relationship harder between Brady and Belichick because it sort of almost inadvertently painted Belichick as more of the bad guy in the building. But that said, look, you have Bill Belichick at that time really invested in Jimmy Garoppolo and wanting Garoppolo, to take over for Brady at some point and for Bill's legacy to be kind of extending the winning beyond whoever's playing quarterback. And then in the middle of it, you have Alex Guerrero, who we mentioned it earlier, and his advice was becoming a problem in the building. Obviously, Tom was evangelical about the TB12 methods, and it was at odds a lot of the time with the Patriots doctors. And so a lot of players felt conflicted because they're like, who do we go to? Do we go to the most powerful players guy? Do we go to the team doctors? Like, what do we do here? And then, Bill Belichick ends up banning Alex Guerrero in the middle. That story breaks in the middle of the season. And, at one point, Brady said, I don't want to play for Bill anymore. And, all of these things had just sort of colluded and sort of were set on fire at the exact moment during that season. And you look at Brady, he skipped the off-season program, all the voluntary workouts that next off-season. Only NFL quarterback to do that.
Seth Wickersham, ESPN senior writer, and, of course, the author of It's Better to Be here on The Rich Eisen Show. I haven't gotten deep into the book yet. Do you cover the Garoppolo stuff? Did Brady want him out? Like, is all those rumors? What did you discover about that moment? Because clearly, it is also informing what's going on in Green Bay, right? And what Aaron Rodgers might be trying to pull off, for a lack of a better phrase. And then the fact that Brady now goes to Tampa and wins and has a situation that he wanted in New England but didn't get, and that Rodgers is trying to attempt apparently in Green Bay. I mean, it's not just the past, it's also present, and it's prologue to what we're seeing maybe in the future. There's a lot going on here. What did you discover about the Garoppolo stuff?
Well, I mean, look, Bill was invested in Garoppolo, and, he has a lot of pride. We all know that. And, whenever he walks away from the Patriots, he wants to walk away with that team set up long term, and especially at quarterback. That's the most vital piece. And so he had drafted Garoppolo, and I think at a lot of points might have preferred to turn to him. But Brady played well. Kraft was clearly in Brady's corner, and, he ends up shipping Garoppolo to San Francisco, right before the trade deadline for a second-round pick. I and others reported that Kraft essentially made it clear that he needed to trade Garoppolo, and that Brady was, their present and their future. Kraft pushed back at that and denied that, but he was just another thing. And I think that Brady knew that Bill was invested in Garoppolo, and even that became another, contentious point. Like, what do I got to do here? What do we got to do together? We've won 5 Super Bowls. And so I think that Jimmy Garoppolo was definitely, part of that conflict during that season. And if you fast forward and you talk about what's happening now, Brady's not just a quarterback in Tampa Bay. Alex Guerrero, banned from the team plane and the sideline and a lot of the building in New England, has his own office in Tampa Bay and got a Super Bowl ring. What Tom Brady is treated as a different person. He's almost the quarterback and a pseudo-executive and the offensive coordinator in a lot of ways. And at the end of his run in New England, he wanted a little bit more say over personnel. He wanted a little bit more say over game planning. He told Joe Montana, look, I give my opinion, they listen, and then they go do their own thing. And I think that all of that stuff had just run its course by the end, and he was ready to go.
So do we know, did Brady basically say to Kraft he's got to go? And look, the bottom line is, what a decision that was, with the ultimate of respect to Belichick and Garoppolo. I mean, the lion's share of they got 3 more out of it. I think we talked about the plots.
Did Kraft say did Brady say to Kraft about?
Yeah,
about
like
Jimmy
did he
G?
say right? Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, Tom wanted to be there, and he wanted an extension, and he did. He would love to not have Jimmy nipping at his heels, but Tom Brady doesn't have the power to order a trade. I know that when I did a story in 2018 about the dynamics in the building, a lot of people somehow took away that Brady had sort of ordered this trade or tried to force it. I never reported that. I never heard it. So, but, I think if Brady felt like, look, we've won 5 Super Bowls together. I want to play until I'm 45 years old. Why can't we just fix this up? The owner wants him to be till he's 45 years old. It was Bill who had reservations about it. And I always go back to the end of that Falcons, Super Bowl when they beat the Falcons. If they had just signed Tom Brady to a 5-year deal right then, so much of the acrimony that transpired over the next couple of years would have been averted.
So I guess that's a question, for the moment, to put a point on it. Seth Wickersham, his book, It's Better to Be Feared, coming out October 12th. It's must-have, must-read, certainly for any football fan of the last, say, quarter century, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. So, when you watch The Last Dance, you're just sitting there just shaking your head like, how the hell did this happen? How in the world did they allow it to stop? And what could have been done to stop the train, with us now 20 years later seeing how tough it is and all of that? Could anything have changed? Like what could have changed the dynamic? Certainly we're going to be talking about it so much between now and Sunday night as well with the reunion. Could anything have changed? Was it literally a 5-year deal, or would that have changed the dynamic?
I think all these guys would have gotten on each other's nerves, but I think that they stayed together because they knew, for as long as they did, because they knew that they needed to accomplish what they wanted. This was their best chance to win. That said, again, Tom Brady has made it very clear for a long time that he was going to play until he was in his 40s and then 45, and who knows, maybe it's beyond now. And the Patriots just wouldn't commit to it. Bill Belichick thought that Tom Brady was near the end, and in April of 2019, that's a couple months after you had seen them together, and they had a great day together at the studio for that NFL 100 special, a special that Bill Belichick won an Emmy for. The contract negotiations did not go well, and Tom Brady nearly left camp because he was so frustrated about it in protest. And there was a moment that Tommy Curran noticed of NBC Sports Boston at practice where a receiver lined up in the wrong spot, and Brady didn't correct him. He just stared at the coaches, and his body language was very clear. You guys want to run this team? Go ahead. And Brady ends up signing an extension in that training camp that's billed as a 2-year extension. And for a second, we're thinking, oh, they got it done. Brady will be in New England until he's 45. But then when we looked at it, it was really just a raise with an out at the end of the year. And right then, Tom Brady knew that it was his last year in New England. And he and his wife, 2 days after that contract was announced, it was announced that they put their home up for sale.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.